Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Personality Yoda. Welcome to the next exciting installment in the Five Voices interviews. And I'm thrilled to say that I've got one of my really good friends, Lucio Berumen, going to join us today. Lucio is a nurturer, connector, creative. So we're gradually working our way through the 16 different voice orders. So, Lucio, I've been having far too many women on the show, so it's fantastic to have someone else with more testosterone. So welcome, Lucio, to Personality Yoda.
Hi, Steve. It's good to see you. I'm really excited to be here, with you. So it's always glad to see you and talk to you. So
you're very kind. And as I said, don't worry about the 4 million people who are listening, Lucio. There's no pressure on you to be amazing today, so that's good. So, Lucio, I always get my guests to kind of introduce themselves a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the Lucio Berumen story. Where have you come from? Where were you brought up? Family, work, studies, just a little bit of context so that people understand what it is that's brought you here to where you are today.
Okay. Well, my name is Lucio Berumen. I'm originally from Mexico. I born in Mexico, and then my wife, she's from Minnesota. Actually, I'm here in Minnesota, United States. And yes, I grew up in Mexico. I'm an industrial engineer. I finished my career industrial engineer. I worked as industrial engineer for 2 years. Then later, I joined a nonprofit called Youth with a Mission, and then I've been 18 years in the nonprofit. That is a missionary organization. So I've been missionary for 18 years, and I'm traveled all around the world, 40 countries, wow. And teaching and be able to invest in young leaders all around the world. I have 3 kids, 3 boys. It's 12, 9, and 3 years old that have a lot of energy, for but yes, so far.
And you have a wife as well, I presume, or?
Yes. Yes. And as soon as you're getting older, you're getting less energy. So yeah.
Hey, don't talk to me about that. I was talking with Tracy before the show and saying that my eldest was 21 yesterday, but I've still got a 21, a 17, and a 9-year-old, which was a very, very unexpected blessing in our old age. So, Personality Yoda was well beyond reproductive age when I think Charlie arrived. So, I 3. That's it's a blurred memory. So, Lucio, tell us a bit about what do you do for fun? Okay, what sort of things would you do if you just had free choice of what you were doing?
Oh well, I like teaching. Is something that I really enjoy. Teaching is, I really enjoy it. It doesn't matter, being extrovert. I really like, to teach, to be with people. Also, I like sports. I love sports. I always, when I see Liverpool playing, I remember. Yes, I like champions and all this stuff. And I love sports, basketball. And I played basketball before, not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My knee says no more. But yes, there's sports, people, teaching. There's something that I really like to travel. I like, to go to different countries, different cultures, places, eating whatever they give me. I love it. So yes.
And knowing, of course, what I know about the way you're wired, Lucio, that's perfect for you. That fits you and the way you were made perfectly. So tell us a little bit, Lucio, about how on the earth did you get connected to Giant, firstly, and then ultimately for you, now you're a nurturer, connector, creative, or ESFP. What have been some of the biggest personal revelations, ahas for you that knowing your voice has really made a difference? So there's some specific areas or specific things, both for you personally, but perhaps in your world as well. So how do you get connected to Giant, and how have understanding of voices really helped shape you and what you, and guess, lead in other areas?
Okay, well, originally, was presented by Mark Harisha. He came to me. I remember he came to me with a toolkit, and then he showed it to me and said, "Hey, can you translate that in Spanish? And this is something that we want to do it." And so let me see. So a few coffee later, he introduced with me Maria, and then because of the language and what we're trying to do. And then Maria, was awesome. It doesn't matter what I say about Maria. It's always want to be short. Whatever I say, at least in my dictionary, and when this is you find the word liberator, you want to, see Maria's face over there. So it's really awesome, that she's been doing it with me. And yes, it's the way that I been introduced, to Giant. Then I went to Oklahoma City for the training. And it's kind of funny because as soon as I come, from Oklahoma City, I was talking to my wife, about the 5 years.
Yeah.
And I say, oh, sorry, because I was thinking that I was in year number 2, having connection with her, but actually no, because I was in front of the cell phone. Like that. So then when I say, oh, sorry, I was thinking I have connection with you, but you're thinking that I'm multitask. And then she said to me, it doesn't matter how much you invest in Giant, it's worth it right now.
I always love the fact that basically some of my favorite male friends will go to their wives and say, I want to go out tonight, darling. And she's like, again? Well, who are you going with? I'm going out with Steve. That's great. You go. He's good for you.
Yes, that one is pretty good. So, revelation.
So that fantastic plug for the 5 gears, though, Lucio. Thank you. So voices. When you first came across voices, how has that impacted you? So obviously, as a nurturer, connector, creative. Talk to us a little bit about voices and how really that kind of gave you a lens to see you and some of the places you've applied it.
Okay, well, in the beginning, when I just started, I was thinking that I'm a connector. I was thinking about ENFP. That's what I'm thinking. And I always trying to be like that, but it wasn't, wasn't. So actually one time that I was talking to you, about I have a revelation like, no, you are ESFP. And they're like, oh, okay. So in the beginning was a little like a bummer, I wish I could be like a connector, nurture. Because of the thing that we're trying to develop, Spanish with the Spanish speaking is a new things, is something to pioneering, something that I don't have that skills. It made me I feel like I need to be more pioneer connector, to be able to do this, and in some way was a little bit of awakening. But then, then later start embrace it, trying to understand who I am and it's the way it is. And in the beginning, I was thinking that because I travel to different places and then I do logistics and bring teams and do all the stuff, I was thinking that was connector, I do this thing, but no, it's because when you do it first time, then you understand how to do it and you just make it again and again. So it's not like you're doing something new. Yeah, it's a different country, but it's the same thing that you do. So it's like, oh, okay. So that's, revelation to me that I still, anything that unknown things is really, I'm trying to do it, but I'm really scared. That's something that's in me.
Yeah. And that's such an important thing for people to hear, because you'll find that a lot of the times the nurture or the environment that you're in. So if you have spent 18 years in YWAM is a very, very connector world. So therefore, it's almost like we often are influenced to behave in a way which is more connected to nurture than necessarily our nature. And now you can do it because you have connector as a second voice. We can all do everything. But the most important thing for everyone really is to go, okay, this is how I was made to be at my best. So you can do everything, but sometimes it's more tiring to do, or you do it in a different way. So if you think that the nurturer connector does connect and are brilliant at connecting people to the things they believe in, but usually the difference is what we call the sphere and the scope of who. So by nature, your desire is probably to actually connect what's necessary and needed to a far smaller group of people, like an extended family, So actually, you actually go far deeper in your connecting care versus the true connector, who often ends up wanting to connect the whole world and everyone they meet to specific things. You will actually be probably a much more trusted connector, Lucio, because in the end, a nurturer will always do the due diligence to make sure whatever they're bringing into their relational extended family, they've really checked, is it going to be healthy? Is it going to be wholesome? Is it good for them? And only when you're absolutely sure will you make those connections. So it's not you're not a connector. It's always that the foundational voice shapes the way that the nurturer first voice shapes the way that you do your connecting. And I think that's the permission giving, because most nurturers are always needing permission, Lucio, to go, it's okay to be you. And that actually, particularly for those who spent a long time in the spiritual world and the kind of ministry world, there is a huge hierarchy of unspoken assumptions of which gifts are more valuable.
Yes.
And I think one of the most, for people like you, and to celebrate, I have a bias for nurturers the world over, believing that actually if nurturers were actually involved in decision making and leadership at every level of society, our society would be a lot more just, a lot more compassionate, a lot more caring, and a lot better organized. So that's the reason why. But time and again, Lucio, there'll be people listening who do what you've just done, which is like, but I hoped I'd be a pioneer, or surely it would be better if I was a connector. And I just want to go, come here, let me slap you. The way that you are made to be, when you are you at your best, you can lead anything, but fundamentally people trust you. And I think it's so important that people hear even, the honest wrestle of going, it's taken you a while to go, this is actually me at my best. So rather than wishing I was more that or more this, I'm actually going to embrace the superpowers that I've been given and really then lead out of that rather than out of, I ought to be like Mark Herringshaw or whatever it might be. So talk to us a little bit about that. And I'm sure having Maria, by the way, who is our guardian nurturer, ISTJ. So if you want to encounter who Lucia is talking about, if you go to the Voices series on Giant, you'll find that Maria, it's on a lot of things now, but also recorded the Guardian Nurturer series. So talk to us a little bit about that, Lucia. Do you think you've really, really owned who you are at your best now?
Well, yes. After I have that revelation and have a little struggle, like accepting, that because we normally want what we don't have, that normally that happening. And yes, and then I realized, why at least in my office there's no door in my office, because I always want to talk to people, like sometimes they come in and I now understand why. They came and they stay a little longer, talking to me, and then sometimes about, something that they have a struggle with, and I was talking to them and things like that. But at the same time, I need to, I finish my work, but I was talking, and it's kind of difficult for me to leave, that person who really need help and do my task. So that's what it's kind of, it's something that I learned, like, oh, that's why they come to me. They feel comfortable with me, and then I talk to them, and then be able to help, and this is really struggle, with the task and the person, choosing by the person.
There's nobody better in the world at being a troubleshooter for people and the situations, and therefore, because you love it, and people love the fact you love it and you're so good at it, they will always bring Lucio their problems. And if the door's open, it's like, well, why wouldn't I continue caring and helping people and being practical? That's the difference, you see, that it's the ability to be in the detail with people and to be in the ordinariness of people's lives, and often the unglamorous piece of people's lives, and actually bringing joy and bringing, in many ways, that incredible ability to care often for those that others miss. And that's the reason why two things happen is, one is everybody loves being around you, but also you have to put careful boundaries around how much you give away of yourself, because even you have a finite amount of resource for people, and it's so easy to give to everybody and then find the people that are closest to you don't get what they would need from you. So
Yeah.
I don't know whether any of that sounds familiar, Lucio, but that's
Oh,
often a classic tension for many of my little nurture connector creative friends. Talk to us about that one.
yes, because I was talking to people, because of the problems, and then later I didn't finish my task. So sometimes I need to arrive to my house and try to finish, what I need to finish. So
That's right.
yes,
That's right. And throw in a little bit of South American culture, which is very well. We'll get it done when we get it done.
yes,
And
yeah,
the fact that, well, why wouldn't we just hang out and be with people?
yeah.
Some of those challenges will be. But that's probably now into the next little bit that we often do. And I'm hoping Tracy will show one of the giant tools, which is the question I always ask people is say, look at that, she's amazing as always, and go, if I was your boss, Lucio, if I was the person who was leading you, I'd often be asking this question is, how do I function as a liberating leader for you? How do I create a culture of empowerment for you so you feel empowered to grow beyond sometimes what you would think, but also to give you the opportunity perhaps to do the things and lead things that you probably would hold back from. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, for you, if I ask you that question, what would high support, what would high challenge look like if I really did that well for you? And then I will add some color commentary around the way I've often seen that done. So if we were asking your wisdom, I was asking you as your boss, go, come on, Lucio, I want you to be absolutely fulfilled in what we're going to do. Give me some clues. How do I lead you well?
Okay. Well, first, value myself, for who I am and for what I do.
Yeah.
We're a human being, no human doing. So this is the first thing, and make all the stuff like a more like a funny, like a fun, to do, instead of me more like I need to be like more restricted kind of stuff, more like that. Some of the challenge that I need is set up the goals together, and have accountability to make that happen. Because with the relational part, I get distracted, with the relational, and then you need to be like, hey, we're here, and then we need to the next thing that we need to start doing. This is important for me to because I could easily get distracted with the relationships, So have fun and be enjoyed. Sometimes we don't know where we're going. As soon as we're going, happy. That's kind of my mentality. Like, where we going? I don't know, but we need to have fun, in the way that we're going there. Of course, not all the people think the same way, but anyway. So that's my thing. Another thing I think is the tool investing time. It's important for me, of course, to be a formal and formality, to get together to talk about stuff. But I value a lot the spontaneous, the informal way. Why? Because when it's formal means it's structured, so you need to be there. It's part of your calendar. But when you have a coffee with me or let's eat together and then talk about stuff, is more important because then you don't have to be there. You want to be there. Yeah. So that's for me the best thing when I know somebody care about me is when they do informal things. Like, formal, of course, we have meetings and meetings and meetings, but like, hey, let's go and eat, let's go talk, and then it's better atmosphere, and I know that they care, the informal part. So that's really important.
I love it, and I think for those of you who are leading or kind of nurture connector creatives, and those of you who maybe have children or friends, what Lucio has shared there is so profound, because what he shared is really who the nurture connector creative is when they're being really honest with you. Because there's always a sense in the personality of going, is it okay to have this much fun? Is it okay to say I'm really relational? Is it okay to say sometimes, I'm going to need help really getting the task done, because I'd rather be with people and just help people every day And what you'll often find is, if I'm your boss, it's a really delicate balance, because what I want you to do is I want you to have the freedom to be you, but I want to put enough structure around you that you don't end up doing too many things and end up not actually focusing on delivering some of the things that we would do together. So I think for me is the first thing is I not only want you to be known for who you are and I value you, and I hear that waste time with me, Steve, don't just make it formal. I need to know. I love that. I want to be with you, not because I have to be as your boss, but because actually I want to be because I enjoy being with you. Now, for some of you listening to that, you're like, oh my goodness, it would be a nightmare. Some are very private people, very rational, very logical. Yes, well, I'm the boss, so therefore, why would I waste time outside of work? But if they're going to create the environment where you get to be your best, you have to learn how to calibrate support and challenge. So the thing I'd say with Lucio would be is, having done that, I go, Lucio, what is it we're trying to achieve? And I would work quite hard at defining, you said, the goals, which I think is really helpful, because in the end, you have a desire to please authority figures, yes, particularly if they happen to be really healthy ones in your life.
Yes.
So what I would always do is I would define goals, and I would also help you define some boundaries, which is why gears is so important, because if you're not careful, you will live a completely integrated life between work, relationships, family, rest, and yes, you probably won't achieve all the things you could achieve if you bring some discipline to your talents. So even though it sounds harsh, I can see in your face you're going like, oh my goodness, Steve as my boss would be, I think I'd really like it, and I think he really likes me, which he does, but I think he'll also help me achieve things that I would not have achieved on my own. Yes. And I think that's the bit with the balance, because I would always ask you, Lucio, with that tool, I'd say, okay, how am I getting the balance right now? Because in the end, you will always tell me, even if you don't use words, the body language of the nurturer, connector, creative is almost like their face will tell you how they're doing. And so therefore for me, it's like, and I would look for opportunities, by the way, around that to say, Lucio, how do we make this team a fun place to be? I'm going to give you a budget. I'm going to actually celebrate that gift, but I'm also not going to let you be defined as just the fun person. I'd actually sit down with you and I'd be really quite fierce on what are the things in your heart that we need to achieve. But I'd also always be asking you, where are we going next, Lucio?
Yes.
What's the next career development for you? Because if I just let you, you would just stay being nice to people and actually not stretch some of that competency skills. And in the end, you then feel guilty later in life that you didn't use all the talents you were given. So talk to me a bit about that, Lucio. Is there any sense that Yoda is describing reality for you there?
Well, yes. When I say, sometimes I get distracted with the relations, because I want to help people. So as they need me, I want to be for them. Is more important. Of course, we're going more for the people than for the revenue. Sometimes, for the finances and sometimes the people. But now I understand that there's a different way of thinking. In the beginning, I was thinking, like, we normally think that everybody is like us, but then later we start getting like, no. It's important for somebody else, to be there. So when I understand that, then I be more focused in the things that I need to do. But sometimes, the thing that I don't like many times, that they're trying to convince me more with logic. Okay, so because of this, because of that. No. Be open. You need something, or you need something from me, or something like that. So it's much better go to the heart for me than really for the mind. Like, makes sense. Like, well, makes sense in your mind, but I still don't think so. Like that. So in my perspective is yes. I need the person who tell me like, this is the next step. This is the next step. And be in the right path, to accomplish and help me, to give me support, in that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think whenever you're thinking through voices, to know, if I know for Lucio that Guardian is his fourth voice and Pioneer is his fifth voice, what I know is that actually once we've agreed what it is Lucio is going to achieve and some of the strategic frameworks that are going to be needed, you are brilliant at not only delivering them but getting everyone else to help.
Yes.
But if you have a nurture, connect, creative and go, okay, here's the objective, go off and make it happen, that's actually sometimes cruel, because for someone who's a pioneer like me, a pioneer connector, you tell me, Steve, this is the hill we want you to get. Here's the resources. Come back and tell me when you did it. Yes. I'm like, you think I'm competent, you trust me, I'm good to go. But if I did that for you, it would probably be unkind, because I would be thinking I was giving you freedom and autonomy. You'd be like, Steve, I actually really need some help to think through strategically, how might we do this? Because using the Pioneer Guardian is always going to be in your 30%, not the 70%. And I think that's another thing when you're leading somebody, is always to be asking, what is their fourth voice? What's their fifth voice? And how do I allow for the fact that if those are key to a particular project or need, how do either I play that role, or how do I partner them or connect them, or at least make sure that there is input around it, so that a combination of you working with alongside Pioneers and Guardians, you can do things with your superpower that they simply can't, because everyone likes you. Not everyone likes Pioneers, sadly, and everyone trusts you, and everyone loves being around the Lucio world, because why wouldn't they? It's always fun. And if you're selling something, Lucio, this is the other secret sauce. If you believe it enough to offer it to people, people will buy it from you. You hate the thought of being a salesperson, because you're not. That's your, what I call, absolutely laser focused connector, because you would do a due diligence on anything, which means if you're offering it to the people you care about, you know it's going to be good for them. So you actually have more influence commercially than you realize, but you will often, if you're not careful, if I'm not a good boss, you will withdraw away from the commercial realities, when actually in the team, you have a huge part to play in the process. So any other thoughts, comments on that, Lucio, before we move on?
No, yes, that's totally okay. That when I be with people, the people, I with people, and then the people like me, I really like it, to be around. And then of course, if I want to say something, it's because I really feel it, and I think it's better for that person. And the part of selling is really hard for me, because I think like, oh no, it's for people, it's not for the money that I could earn or something. And that's really struggled, with that. I say, I already have it, I already know. Let's do it. Let's get it. So that's my mentality. And sometimes, I do more that way of thinking. So that's why I need somebody else to tell me, no, this is, you have to, because of that reason, or kind of the stuff. So
there's often in peak characters like you, Lucia, there's more creativity and artistic texture. So the love of creating, giving yourself permission sometimes to enjoy art, design, texture, making things the way that environments for people. There's often a very high creativity as it relates to creating spaces and experience for people that actually can be shared. So allowing that to thrive as well. But the other thing, the last thing I'll say for the type is, if I'm your boss, I'm also monitoring your workload, and particularly your people load, because you have an innate ability to carry lots of people, most of whom other people don't want to care for because they're too hard work. But once it starts getting heavy, or the responsibility gets over responsible, so you've got too many people, now you don't have enough time for the task, the tendency for your personality at its worst is to drop the lot and run. So you have to be really careful, because pioneers and guardians will not trust you with leadership again. They still like you, they still love you, but if you get to a point where you get overwhelmed and drop it and run, we always remember that. So I'll always be asking you, Lucio, how heavy is the load right now? How much tasks have you got in there? How many people are you carrying? And what's your run temptation right now? Drop the lot and run is always one of those kryptonite pieces for the nurturer, connector, creative. So again, anything you want to add on that one?
Well, no, yes, I understand. When there's a lot of people, that I need to care for, and then I didn't have enough time for doing the task, and then all the stuff. Yeah, the main thing is like one thing, like okay, it's not worth it. That's not worth it. The stress and things like that is not worth it. But well, that's what maybe in the beginning. Right now, I understand that we have a industrial engineers, so they want to have tools and things in play. You can run about the responsibility that you have, especially when you are in a different country trying to do all the with people who are with you. So yeah, you do what you need to do, and I think in that line I'm more trust and that thing, because you need to do what you need to do. I understand that, and most because also in the back of my head I want to do a good job, for yeah. I remember one time when you sitting next to me and say like I don't want to tell you too much stuff, but because whatever I told you, you will do it. So that's kind of that thing, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you're right.
Well, so as you think about it, if I've described it correctly, I should be a boss that you are desperate to have, but also a little bit, but Steve's not just going to let me get away with things. And that's the most important thing, is the calibration feels at times more challenging than you would want, but actually deep down, it's the most loving thing I can do for you, because actually you'll look back and go, if I've done it well, you'll say I achieved far more than I probably would have achieved without somebody who cared about me to the point where they didn't let me just, in many ways, disappear and not deliver what I was doing. So, that's always the calibration. And it's great for people listening, because you go, how do you know all this stuff? Well, I've spent 20 years studying it. But here's the thing for all of you. If you just ask the people that you lead, yes, you can use Giant, the platform, there's lots of clues, but actually just sitting down and asking people, what does high support, what does high challenge look like? And actually breaking down the questions and going, well, hang on, what about support? Okay. What about challenge? What does that look like? It's amazing how much people will tell you if they know that you're for them and if they believe that you actually want the best for them. So really, really helpful, Lucio, to dig in even more than usual, I guess, on that question. So our last piece is where I say to people is go, I'm trying to get at what's the dream that is in you. So I say, here's the deal. If I was to say, I will take care of all of your financial needs, all of your current responsibilities, whatever the number was, and also I would invest whatever money was needed and bring all the relational network of Giant to bear, and you could do whatever you wanted with the rest of the next 10, 20 years, whatever it is, what would we be doing together, Lucio, is the question that I ask my guests. So money's not the issue. We have unlimited resources, and more importantly, we have unlimited networks of relationships. What is it that we're going to partner in to do that's going to make a dent in the world?
Okay, well, there's being a first generation Latino here in the United States. I've been learning, about the cultural situation, and I'm not talking about the culture of the organization, but also, people from different countries to come on different and work over there. So something that I love is to the cultural gap that is sometimes in the organizations. Make it shorter, okay? Make it the people are different. It make it shorter. So make it narrow, the gap between the cultures. In any sphere of society means education, government, religion, that is church or nonprofits, family. So there's this kind of something that I dream, to get leadership to them, because they're learning. But also the cultural gap that is sometimes a misunderstanding because have a different values. That sometimes the people think that just because they speak their language, then the culture, and it's not like that. The language is just the tip of the iceberg. All the stuff are down there, and why the people have a different values. Like Latinos value more the relationship than the task, and then culture is more tax oriented than relational oriented, and sometimes when they get together they have some issues. So there's something that I want to help in as much as I can, in this thing.
Yeah, I love that. Remind me afterwards. I need to connect you with one of my dear friends called Ricardo Gonzalez, who's a huge fan of Giant. He's probably the most competent person I've ever heard talking on cultural translation, and he basically loves the Latino culture. He's even down there living in it, and he's learned all the languages. And he wrote some books on cultural mastery, which I think the two of you will really enjoy each other. So there we go. Remind me if I forget. I will set up a connection so you can chat with him, because he's doing some of this stuff better than anyone I know. But he's always looking for people who have the potential to bridge between cultures. And as I've often said is, America and Britain are two separate cultures joined only by a common language. You actually understand even more the sense of, the Latino culture is, you may be using, American or English, depends how you look at it, but that doesn't mean the same culture is being applied. So talk to me about how we might do that, because so this is me now being the pioneer, because I go, I love that. That fits the way Lucio's made. Yeah. Does Lucio have any thoughts about what that might look like on a practical basis? How might we actually help people bridge that cultural gap inside organizations, families, communities? Because it really is, I think, in America right now, obviously there's all kinds of things going on, but actually learning how to bring cultures together and translate. Most communication breaks down because we don't understand each other. That's the transmission versus communication. So what have you been thinking about so far? We got apps, we got workshops, we got books, we got keynotes. What have we got in the portfolio, Lucio, of how we're actually going to make this happen?
Okay, well, I've been teaching cross-cultural communication in different, environment, to business, to nonprofits in Latin America, Colombia, Cuba, Mexico, Guatemala. It's a 15 hours, teaching that I have in those things, and there's something that it not only talk about, I read the different books, but also is my personal life. How can I be from a warm culture living in a really cold culture with Minnesota? So that's how in the beginning I was thinking like, oh, wait a minute, why they're so different, and in the end, like a little lamb, oh no, you're the different, not they. So then I need to start understanding, they speak directly, we speaking directly. They're tax oriented, we're relational oriented. They value the introversion, we value the extroversion, party and loud, and so that's kind of the things that I normally do. I'm teaching about this with example of what I do, and the thing that I do to the people is say, I have a saying to say like, my ceiling or my roof is your floor. Means whatever I learn, okay, you need to pass for those things. You need to learn it, and then from there you could go, over. Especially for the people who sometimes they don't understand, like when it's okay to be self-promoted, when it's not. So those kind of stuff that in different culture is different, thinking. So those kind of stuff,
So one of the things that we can look at, Lucio, is actually, can you create almost like a certification? So if we can codify your unconscious competence, so that, because what I would say to people is to go, you don't realize how talented you are or how many decades it's taken you to be this good. So therefore, but you can never train people in your unconscious competence because you just think it's normal. You have to turn your unconscious competence into conscious competence in order to multiply it. So the lovely thing about the digital world is, and the lovely thing about you is, actually you can speak, you can write, you can teach. But what you really need is when people go, Lucy, I'd love to learn more about this. You're able to give people different ways that they can engage with, either saying, hey guys, I'd love to train you how to do what I do as one level. I'd love to put you through, if you want to go through a learning program or a course or whatever it might be. So there's different ways in which we can, in many ways, film you defining the content you want somebody to engage with. So I say, if you take 3 avatars, so one is somebody that wants to deliver like you do. Another is somebody who says, I'd really love to learn the insights that I'd love you to be my coach, Lucio, but I probably can't afford for you to be in my life every day. But what would it look like to watch some content every week, to maybe have a chance to join a coaching clinic with you and actually others that you have? So if you think Giant has codified learning, you, I think, have some things to share with the world. It's actually thinking about classic Pioneer Guardian here. What is the strategic way we can make Lucio available and the learning that you've gathered over all these years in a way that means you don't have to be physically present to deliver it? Now, I know for you as a nurturer, connector, creator, it's like, but I want to be present. I want to be, I don't want to be on a screen. And I'm saying it's both and, not either or. So the difference is, though, there's only so many people you can touch face to face, but there are a lot of people who would love to learn, I think, from that Latino American particularly dynamic of going, how does that culture work? So I think there's some real interesting conversations to be had there, Lucio, but you would have to decide, am I really prepared to do the hard work to codify my unconscious competence and almost build a pathway in Giant language of going, this is what I want you to learn at the 101 level for culture or communication. And maybe what you do is you build different levels. So what you could do is you could film a pathway, put it on Giant and see what feedback we get for 101. And then what you can do is see whether there are people that wish to come into maybe a coaching group. Because once you can do that, you can actually you can create certifications for products that in your world, and you are probably always going to be translating Giant into languages that Jeremy and I will never speak. So I think there's real mileage in this, and I could see you doing this. And what I always ask on Personality Yoda is, does what you want to do fit the way you're made? And I'm going, it does. This really does.
I translate, me and somebody else, have that translate in Spanish, it's so the toolkits are in Spanish, and I keep translating stuff as soon as I need to use it. Then I translate it, to make amazing. For them. Then it really.
But that's you serving Giant. What I'm talking about is, what is it that Lucio is going to live as his contribution, which is you, which will probably use some of the Giant stuff, but you have far more than that. And most nurturers will limit themselves to what is safe. Rather than actually stretch themselves to say, what is it that God's put in you that you really probably would love to share with the world, but sometimes go, well, would the world want to hear it, or would I be able to do it? And that's where that kind of you're now feeling, oh, Steve, this sounds like hard work. And that's why the prize is always got to be worth the price. But let's have a conversation. Let's keep talking about that. Tracy is probably going to be perfect for this, because what you need is a guardian pioneer, not necessarily another entrepreneur, but we're in the team. Any final words from you, Lucio? We've all, as I knew we would with the two of us, we've gone over time, but has this been helpful for you?
Oh, yes. I'm excited, right now. It's always like I'm excited, and then I really want to say, thank you, Steve, for all the time that I talk to you, and it's always like ideas and myself, a little bit more in a little bit level. So thank you so much, for the invitation.
Pleasure.
And for making it really excited, for a few times.
Yes.
So,
well, Thank you for all you've done. And so next week, or in the next session, we actually have Becky Wolf, who's a creative connector. So we seem to be working our way through the nurturer world. So let's have a look next week at the creative connector. But Lucio, thank you for being such a fantastic guest. Really appreciate you sharing. I know people will benefit enormously from what it is you've shared. So from Personality Yoda, thank you, and goodbye to everyone watching and who will follow up this over the coming months and years. Bye-bye.